Hello, my name is Max and welcome to Tabletop Reviews, where today I'm having a look at Plague Inc. the board game. Yet another game that I looked at during my solo week. Plague Inc. that I played solo game, was not overly happy with it. I can't actually remember the score I gave the solo variant. But this is all about the multiplayer variant. Let's quickly set it up and see how it's played. Alright, we all know the story by now. First, you remove the rules here, then you have a main central player board, which you put out. Bam. And then you have the main card map, which you can place like here. And you have your DNA slides. You all can choose a DNA. You have bacteria, which is very, very basic and is probably recommended as the starting DNA. You have the virus, which is a bit more complicated, but still it's in the base game. Pretty simple. Then you got the evolutionary ones. So you got the bioweapon and the fungus, adding a bit of some different abilities to your starting hand here. Pretty interesting. I haven't played a lot with bioweapon or bacteria or fungus, I mean, because we usually should play with virus or bacteria, because I do prefer the rules that bacteria gives, but that's up to you individually. Anyways, start off with that. Now, then, you'll grab your country card. These are just some extra cards that are pretty fun from the expansion. You have a whole bunch of starting country cards right here. You will each get one starting country. I usually put the rest in the box just because I like to keep the starting countries away from the regular countries. Don't actually have to. I always have to check, because I always forget how many cards do you need for the amount of players, how many country cards. So for 2 players you need 24, for 3 players you need 27, for 4 players you need 32 cards here. So just count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And you can put the rest back in the box. You can also just play with all the countries all the time for like a longer game. Where you would shove these up, place them here face down, and flip over the first 3 cards. And of course each player gets the bag of goodies. It contains a bunch of your small little not squares, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided. Oh god, I can't remember what the name is for them when they're 6-sided. Is that hexagons? No, I feel like hexagons is like 5 only. I'm probably stupid right now. And then you have your little DNA marker, which starting player will have 0, the next player will have 1. I'm not gonna set it up. And then 2, and then 3, and then 4 for the 5th player if you wanna play with that many players. And you will take your starting country. This is France in Europe. Bam. And you place one of your little guys on there. That's your starting place. This one is Argentina in South America, which I'll place down here because that's where Argentina exactly played. You have the events deck here. You'll shovel up, and funny enough, you place it face down on the events deck. And then you have your traits here, which will shuffle up as well, although these are usually very well shuffled now that I've played a bunch of time. You grab 5 for each player. Bang. And then the rest face down right here. Now for the Armageddon expansion, there is just one little addition, these right here. Well, there are also these ones right here will mark 100, which marks 100 DNA points. You can place that down to show you have 100. But you have these right here, the genes. So you have recessive genes and dominant genes. Now these are obviously the recessive are easier, the dominant are more difficult, and you can, before the game, you need to choose an amount to the amount of players plus 1. And you'll just, for this one, I'll just throw out 3 random ones placed here. But you can go through them and choose whatever. And an example here, when you kill a country, draw an extra event card or stop anyone else drawing one. Interesting. And a recessive one here would be you may hold 3 extra event cards in your hand. How you can also see them is they give you a little bit like more strength, so to speak, you know, more active role. Well, these ones give you a little bit more of a passive role, which also in lines with, you know, you've played a lot or not played a lot, whatever. Anyways, that's it. You're now ready to play. So at the beginning of your turn, well, you could bring out the death dice real quick, but you have a little nice turns over here. So first you score DNA. You score 1 DNA point for each country you control. At the beginning, you only control 1, so you get 1. And this is why we like to play with bacteria, because the bonus DNA. During your DNA phase, you score 1 extra DNA. That's all it is. That's why I like to usually just get 1 extra DNA for a long time, because it progresses the game a little bit more. Then country, you can choose a country card. You can choose from 3 face up, or draw from top per deck. Now of course, what you need to think about is you want to spread out. You can't really spread to Africa, South America, or the other South America right now. Your opponent could, but you can't. So draw the top, and Chile, not very good. Right now, probably just place it down. But you could, with the country, discard it, discard your entire hand, and get a new hand of trade cards. And maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't want to do that. It depends on your trade cards, of course. And Chile is next to Argentina. There we go. Anyways, then you have evolution. You can spend your DNA points to get traits down here. So you could, for example, spend 2 DNA points to get sweating. Maybe down to 0. What the different things does is you have infectivity, which means you can place down more of these in your turn. You have lethality, which means I'll get to lethality, what lethality means. But this next 2 are basically for infection, the next phase, which is where you get to infect countries, and you have to check out for temperature and connect it. And well, I got 2 examples on my hand right here. Maybe I have the final example over here, if I'm lucky. I do. Great. So connected is either within the continent, or if it is airport to harbor to harbor or airport to airport, then you need the airborne trait, as you can see right here. But also for something like Chile, you need cold resistance, which is right here. There's also heat resistance, and of course there is waterborne for the harbors. Not quite 100% how it works in reality, but it makes sense within the confinements of this game. Right now I can only infect France, and I have 3 infectivity, which means I get to place 3 of my guys here. You can share control of a country. For example, if I only had 2 on mine, my opponent connected to it and got 2 on it as well. We both controlled it, we both scored DNA points. But now I place down a 3rd and a 4th, and I am guaranteed to be dominant on this one. What it calls climate resistance. Sorry about the mistake there, it says it right here. Final thing you do in the turn is death. This means that you need to fully control a country. Every single city on the country needs to be enveloped. Let's say it was here. And then you roll your dice. To your lethality, you need to roll the number or less. And that's why you want to hide lethality. Right now it's only 1 lethality. It was actually pretty close. But you can build on your lethality, and you know, I've had situations where like, I want to kill that country. Well, my lethality is 6. So do I even want to roll the dice? Not really. That was very annoying. Anyways. I missed my thing, I couldn't kill the country, so nothing happens. If I do kill the country, I score DNA for all of my things on here. I said it's 5 DNA, woohoo, and I get them back, of course. And then I get the country. Now in this situation, it's actually pretty bad, because now I'm removed from the board, which means I'm no longer an active player. You can get, there's rules that makes you an inactive player, sort of, but it's no fun. And then I get to draw an event card. Now, everyone who is on it scores points. So if my opponent had the final square that I didn't have, my opponent would score 1 point and also get an event card. And then we have, at the end of my turn now, in this scenario where I kill the country, we have the expansion. In turn order of the person who it is, and then the next follow, you get to choose from these ones right here. You can choose whichever one you want, and you could think, I would stop you from drawing an event card as it was. The two others are actually pretty decent, and my opponent would choose one, and there would be one left for the remainder of the game. And now you have this ability, as I said, this one was when you kill a country, draw an extra event or stop someone from drawing an event card. And it of course doesn't work for this card, but next turn or the turn after or whenever. And that's basically how we play the game. At the end, you of course score points. You first up, you have just the DNA point you have left. Then you tally up all the points for your DNA things you have here, and this one would only be 2. But in a real game you might have all of them covered. And then you have 2 slabs of endgame bonuses. In the normal game you have the lucky escape. Whoever has the more cubes on the card gets 4 extra points. The continent killer. For each continent, give that player who killed the most, or players who killed the most countries and continent, a bonus. So 60 points if you have the most killed countries within a continent. And of course, if you two have killed 3 countries in a continent, that's the most, you both get 60 DNA points. That's, players. And the final one, Ultimate Whiteout. 7 points, bonus for the one who killed the country with the most cities. I always love getting that one. But there's also the expansion ones. A bonus of 4 points if you kill a country in every single continent. So it's nice spreading out. The collector, bonus, 4 point bonus for the players who killed the most countries. I don't know why this isn't in the base game, but it's not. Cheapskate, 4 bonus points for the player with the lowest DNA point value from the evolved trait cards. So that's interesting. Not overly good traits can give you a little bit of a bonus, but it's only 4 points. And a 4 points for the bonus, 4 point bonus for the player who killed the country with the second most cities, which definitely changes up the game a little bit with the extra point for that as well. Those are the in-game bonuses. The one with the most points have, of course, won. Did I get through it in an okay time? I hope I did. Anyways, let's clean this up and talk about what I think about the game. So that's the setup and the gameplay. I know there are some criteria to go through. We start off with the gameplay. How is the gameplay? Well, I would compare this to the video game because it's based on the video game, and I want to see, can I feel the same way that I feel in the video game playing this game? Besides the fact that it's multiplayer. And that's probably something that caught me out of it in the solo player because I didn't feel like playing the video. I was playing the video game. Anyways, the gameplay in here it's fairly it's not overly complex, but it's not very easy either. There are some things to remember and some things to consider, and it's nice to have the little thing on the side of the board to help you remember what you gotta do. And of course, I like the fact of the more effective you are, the more you can do, getting the DNA points and stuff. It's just a good thing to spread out. And of course, the end game bonuses again. I love the things that they give you rewards for. They give you rewards for, I think that's one of the best things about the Armageddon expansion is that it gives you rewards for spreading out more, whilst the main game gave you more reward for focusing in. Just spreads out the game a little bit, that Armageddon expansion. But yeah, the first thing about getting DNA points, of course, from the game, from the video game, it makes sense. You get DNA points for the control you have. This one reminds you a lot about Risk, where the more you control, the more you get. But it's a perfectly fine little action. That's not an action. I can't remember what it's called. Mechanic. There we go. It's a nice little mechanic to have on the second one where you. How can I not remember? That's not. Now that's the country phase. That's the country phase. Yeah, I was about to say that's the evolution phase. That's the country phase first. Again, you have to phase up and the pile. I'm in the middle of Ticket to Ride reviews, and that reminds you of that properly because it gives you the choice on the stroke of luck. It's only 3, so it's a bit less, and it's very easy to sit there with. I can't use any of that, especially at the beginning where you're sitting. In the example, I think you had only 2 consonants on the 3 ones, on the 3 that were out. So it's like, it's very difficult to choose anything useful. Maybe just something to wait for. And then of course you flip out the country. And of course, if you have nothing useful, you can discard your entire hand against a new one. I didn't show you the entire hand, but the hand I showed in the starting of that one was not the best hand ever, actually. I might have chosen in a real game to get rid of that hand right away. But you know, you never know. That's all up in the individual game. But I do like the kind of things that it gives you, and that also, you know, it gives you the choice. Because within the game of spreading out, killing more countries is more useful. So, is this country not one that I want because I can kill it easily, or do I want to get rid of it to not aid my opponents as well? That's something to consider. So it gives you something to consider already in the country phase. Then we have the evolution phase. What I like about this one is that it is semi-consequence free in the fact that you get the points back from what you evolved. So you never have to worry about spending too much money on it. I kind of like that, because it makes it a lot easier to take the decision of changing ones out, or, you know, getting just a temporary addition to your abilities, with changing it out constantly, because you get the points back. So it makes this not really something where you have to worry that much about, like, oh, I'm gonna spend 20, but it's gonna give me this, and that's nice, because already in country phase you have things to think about. How is the board state? So in this one it's nice that it doesn't give you the thing of like trying to figure out, like, if I spend these 20, can I gain them back? Can I gain, how many can I gain from it? So it's nice that it gives you a consequence-free sort of action to go through with. That of course gives you strength for the next one. It's an interesting thing. Of course, maybe, you know, say you get half of them only, just to add a little bit to it. But it is a nice thing, and you kind of see that people have made a plan already and executed without having to think much. While in the country phase, there's sometimes a little bit of thinking, like, do I want to choose one or so. So it's very much a thinky game. Oh, what's that thing that we say? Can't quite remember. The thing where I think a lot, it's definitely a game that invites to that. But not in the evolution one. And then we have the infectivity. Gotta remember, I should really read up on this before I film. Infectivity, where you infect on how much infectiveness you have. And that's a good mechanic where you add to it. As I said, the evolution phase in this one goes hand in hand in this one, and you just want to go up there. So again, you know, it's easy to have a lot of whatever at the beginning, and then get rid of it for lethality instead, you know. So that's nice. And the final one, killing a country. I think the mechanic's pretty good. Yeah, again, adding to lethality, you want to first infect and then have a nice amount of lethality if you can get it. So the evolution phase and down, they all go into one another in a very nice way, of the way if you can changing around, looking a little bit forward, adding some thinkiness to it without getting that thing of like punishment from the evolution or anything. So that's a very nice thing. Boy, I spent a lot of time talking about the gameplay, didn't I? As I said, the ending game bonuses, I already touched upon those. And is there anything else about the gameplay that's noteworthy? Well, the Armageddon, the genes. They're good. I guess that's a little bit of the events as well. But the genes, let's talk about the genes real quick. The genes, I think, are a good addition. You kill, as soon as you kill, you get to choose, and then the starting player gets to choose first, and that's nice. When it's 3, 4 players, 5 players, oh god. When it's 3, 4, 5 players, of course, it's a little bit weird because somebody might be in a strong decision, but he's third from the person, and he gets to the worst end of the stick, maybe. Or maybe people don't think about it and give it to him. I think the genes add very interesting abilities to the mix. Some of them are better than others, that's always going to happen, but it's preferred a bit. And of course the events. Which, by the way, when you kill a country, I like that even infecting it is going to give you something, because you get a little point back and you get an event card. It's a very nice thing where like you could sneak in a few points just by quickly putting 2 there and there, right? And quickly get some events and some points. That's a very interesting thing. But the event cards, I think they're good. Some of them. Again, it's not because, you know, it's a little bit difficult when you've played 2-player, because a lot of them would want you to have 3, 4 or 5 players, obviously. But it's a good game, good addition to it, mix it up a little bit just so it's not always the same boring thing. And of course, gotta remember, what does it say on the card? When can you play this card? Sometimes you're like, oh, at the beginning of my turn. Or then someone has started the turn, it's like, oh wait, at the end, oh my god. I've had that happen to both me and my opponents. I don't know if it's just because we're stupid or something. But I think we've touched upon gameplay enough now. Let's talk about the components next. So we've got nice plastic 6-sided things. I can't remember what the name for 6-sided things are. It's not a hexagon. Jesus Christ, I'm tired. It's not a hexagon, I don't think. So, yeah, and the little DNA, I'm about to say hourglass because it reminds me of one, but it's a DNA, of course. Adding the DNA thing adds just a little bit to thematic kind of the set, but they're very nice. They do the work and they are easily seen. The color is nice, translucent, bright, and are different, distinct from one another. And you know, I like those components. They're really great. The cards are small cards. You know how I think about small cards. I think maybe the trade deck could have been larger cards, but no, small cards. It's always just an annoying. And honestly, the cards feel cheap. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't mind a little bit bent. It's not because they've been bent a lot. It's because they're pretty cheaply made, so they're easily bent. Easily bent. And it's not even worth sleeving them. They feel very cheap. Very cheap, the cards. Not the greatest card stock ever. The dice is of course amazing with the red spread around. It's every time I bring it out to a new place, like, oh, the death dice. They love it, and so that's a great little component to it. And then you have your player maps, and the main map is kind of the same, you know, with the cards. They're a little bit thin, they also a little bit bend easily and feel like a little bit thicker, but still pretty low quality as alongside the cards. So that's fairly low quality there. And then you have the central board, which it's okay. It's actually pretty decent central board, and it does the trick. Very nice. Artwork in terms of the components, it's very simplistic, but that is the video game artwork. So that's very thematic in that sense, because it is the video game's artwork, and it doesn't have to be overly detailed. Like the riot on an event card, like you know what that is, and of course you have the very detailed traits, which shows parts of the body. Very detailed, very nicely. I think someone studying anatomy would love just looking at those. But otherwise, the artwork that is on it is very simplistic, but reminiscent of the video game. So let's talk about the theme, because the theme is first and foremost disease, going through the world and stuff, but it's also the video game. And which one of those does it fit into most? It fits the best into the video game. It very much reminds you of the video game. The traits are all the same, and you evolve them to get the abilities that you also do in the video game, and you get DNA sort of the same way. It very much reminds you of the video game, except for the fact that you're killing off a country slowly at a time, except in the video game you want to infect everybody and then just kill everybody. But yeah, and even devolving, where you get to put DNA points back, you also do that in the video game. So it's very, very thematic in terms of the video game. In terms of ending the world with the disease, sort of, you know, thematic as well, but you know, there's some things like infectivity and lethalness, and those things doesn't add up completely, but it's pretty decently thematic in terms of that as well. So that's, yeah. In terms of the Armageddon expansion, adding the genes, I don't know enough about this. Oh, they also had 2 new diseases, but I don't know enough about diseases to know whether that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. But it does make sense again for the video game, because you also have to buy an expansion to get those kinds of diseases in the video game, so makes sense. So thematically, in terms of that, I don't really get it. I don't really see it, but whatever. Does it lie to you? That's upside down. And 1 to 4 players, 14 and up, 60 minutes. 1 to 4 is of course true in terms of the base game, but I have the expansion, so it's 1 to 5. And it makes a lot of sense in that way, because it works pretty well at all player counts. It moves a little bit faster at more players in terms of the countries going through before your turn. But it fits pretty well in all the ones except for 1 player, you know, in my opinion. I've told you about the 1 player one. Yeah. 14 and up, I agree. The subject matter and just the terms in order and the things to think about, I agree with 14. As always, you can go lower if you've played more games, but just the theme, I wouldn't go too low in age with the theme. It is killing off the world, and especially with the last couple of years, that might, you know, not be the coolest thing. Of course, I'm crazy, so I bought this in the middle of the pandemic, because hell yeah. Because, yeah, but maybe not. And 60 minutes, again, depending on how much people think and how many you are, 60 minutes is fairly accurate. It's, you know what, I think my games have lasted longer than that, so I think it's a little bit low. So it would probably go on a little bit longer than that. Anyways, what is my final score? So I have both the Armageddon expansion and Plague Inc. the board game. Plague Inc. the board game, the main game, is an 8 out of 10 for me. It has some issues with going through the games and stuff, and it's reminiscent of being based on a video game. And video games doesn't translate directly to board games, but it's still a very fun board game, and it's very, yeah, it's a really good board game. Armageddon expansion, adding 2 new diseases, adding the genes, and adding some fun country cards, making fun of, you know, is based on a lot around, like it ends in 2016, I think. You can easily say, but global warming, Greenland and stuff, it's ridiculous and stupid, but the expansion, the genes is the main thing, the diseases are okay, but the genes are the main thing, and I just don't think they add that much, so it's gonna be a 6 out of 10 for me for the expansion, because it doesn't add enough to the game. But now, am I keeping it? Well, yes, it's a very good game, it doesn't take up a lot of space, even the Armageddon expansion is just in here in the box, so I might as well keep it all in here and in my collection. So that is another board game review from me, Marcus. I hope you enjoyed this one, and until next time, bye!